They never tell us this when we are young, but growing old is not just about wrinkles and grey hair. It is about truths that arrive quietly, sometimes painfully, and often unexpectedly, after 70. Life stops pretending, it removes filters, it shows you what truly matters and what never did. These truths may feel bitter at first, but once accepted, they bring a deep sense of peace that youth can never offer. The first bitter truth is that your body will not obey you the way it once did. You may wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. Simple tasks take longer. Doctors' visits become more frequent than social visits. Fighting this reality only brings frustration. Accepting it brings wisdom. When you respect your body's limits instead of resenting them, you begin to live more gently and more peacefully. The second truth is that people will slowly forget you. The phone rings less, invitations decrease, the world moves faster while you move slower. This is painful, especially when you once mattered to many. But here lies freedom. You no longer need to perform for attention. You learn to enjoy your own company, and loneliness slowly turns into solitude. The third truth is that some relationships will fade, including with your own children. They are busy building their lives, just as you once were. Their distance is not always disrespected as life. When you stop expecting constant presence and start appreciating small moments, your heart feels lighter. The fourth truth is that money matters differently now. You may have less earning power, and financial fears may rise. But after 70, happiness no longer comes from accumulation. It comes from contentment, knowing when you have enough and learning to live simply. The fifth truth is that regret will visit you. Missed chances, wrong decisions, unspoken words. Regret is heavy, but forgiveness, especially forgiving yourself, is the key to peace. You did the best you could with what you knew then. The sixth truth is that death feels closer. Friends pass away, goodbyes become frequent. This awareness can either terrify you or teach you how precious each remaining day is. When you accept mortality, fear loosens its grip, and gratitude takes its place. The seventh truth is that respect is no longer automatic. Society often celebrates youth and ignores age. But real dignity comes from within. When you stop demanding respect and start living with self-respect, others feel it too. The final truth is this: happiness after 70 is a choice, not the loud happiness of achievement, but the quiet happiness of acceptance. Peace comes when you stop fighting life and start flowing with it. Growing old is not a curse, it is a privilege denied to many. Accept these bitter truths, and they become sweet wisdom. Let go of what was, embrace what is, and you will find that peace and happiness are still very much possible, perhaps now more than ever. As you grow older, especially after 70, one of the hardest truths to accept is that your body no longer works the way it once did. This realization often arrives quietly. One day you notice stiffness in the morning, slower movements, weaker energy, or pain that appears without warning. At first, the mind refuses to accept it. Inside, you still feel young, capable, and independent, but the body begins to speak a different language. Fighting this change only creates frustration, anger, and sadness. True peace begins when you stop comparing your present body to your past and start listening to what it needs. Respecting your body's limits does not mean giving up on life. It means changing the way you live it. You may no longer be able to work long hours, travel endlessly, or move at the same speed as before, and that is not failure, it is nature. Aging is not punishment, it is a natural phase that demands kindness, patience, and care. When you push yourself beyond your limits, the body responds with pain and exhaustion. But when you slow down, rest when needed, eat carefully, and move gently, the body rewards you with stability and comfort. Many older people feel ashamed of needing help. They see dependence as weakness, but accepting help is not losing dignity. It is protecting your health. Pride can be dangerous at this age. Asking for support, using walking aids, taking medicines on time, or visiting doctors regularly is not surrender, it is wisdom. You have spent decades taking care of others. Now it is time to take care of yourself without guilt. Learning to respect your body also teaches gratitude, even with limitations. Your body has carried you through years of life, struggles, joys, and responsibilities. It deserves appreciation, not criticism. When you stop complaining about what you cannot do and focus on what you still can, walk a little, talk to loved ones, enjoy food, sunlight, prayer, or silence, your heart becomes calmer. Peace after 70 comes from acceptance. The body may slow down, but the soul does not have to suffer. When you align your lifestyle with your body's current needs instead of resisting reality, life becomes gentler. You stop chasing youth and start embracing wisdom. And in that acceptance, you find a quiet, lasting happiness that no young body can ever understand. As you grow older, one painful reality slowly becomes clear: people drift away. And loneliness becomes a regular companion. This truth hurts deeply, because it feels personal, even when it isn't. Friends who once called often now call rarely or not at all. Family members become busy with their own lives, careers, and responsibilities. Social circles shrink, not because you failed, but because life naturally pulls people in different directions. At first, this distance feels like rejection. You may wonder what you did wrong or why you seem forgotten. But this bitterness softens when you understand that loneliness in old age is not a punishment, it is a phase many must walk through. The hardest part is that loneliness is not always about being physically alone. Sometimes you are surrounded by people and still feel unseen, unheard, and unneeded. Conversations become shorter, visits quicker, and patience thinner. The world values speed and youth, while you move slower and speak from experience. This gap creates silence. Fighting it by demanding attention or constantly reminding others of your presence only deepens the pain. Peace begins when you stop chasing people and start grounding yourself. Loneliness, when accepted, transforms into solitude. Solitude is not emptiness, it is space. It gives you time to reflect, to pray, to remember, and to understand yourself more deeply. In solitude, you reconnect with parts of yourself that were ignored during busy years of work and responsibility. You learn to enjoy simple moments: a cup of tea, morning sunlight, quiet walks, or even silence. These moments may seem small, but they carry deep comfort. Accepting loneliness also teaches emotional independence. You realize that your worth is not measured by how many people call or visit you. Your value does not disappear just because others are busy. When you stop expecting others to fill every emotional gap, you regain control over your peace. You learn to be gentle with yourself instead of harshly blaming others. This stage of life invites you to form a different relationship with people, one without heavy expectations. You appreciate those who do show up, even briefly. You stop keeping score. Gratitude replaces complaint. And surprisingly, when you stop begging for connection, meaningful connections sometimes return naturally. Loneliness after 70 can feel bitter, but it carries hidden wisdom. It teaches you self-respect, patience, and inner strength. When you accept it instead of resisting it, loneliness no longer defines you. It becomes a quiet teacher, guiding you toward calm, acceptance, and a deeper kind of peace that does not depend on anyone else's presence. As you grow older, especially after 70, regret and unfinished business begin to surface more clearly than ever before. In quieter moments, memories return choices you wish you had made differently, opportunities you did not take, words you never said, relationships that ended without closure. When life was busy, these thoughts stayed buried under responsibility and routine. But now, with fewer distractions, they rise to the surface and demand attention. This can be deeply uncomfortable, even painful, because regret has a way of whispering, "It's too late." Many elders struggle with the weight of past decisions. You may replay moments again and again, wondering how life might have turned out if you had chosen another path. You may feel guilt for mistakes made as a parent, spouse, or friend. Some regrets come from action, others from inaction. Both hurt. In different ways, trying to suppress these thoughts only makes them stronger. Peace does not come from denying regret, but from facing it honestly. The most important truth is this: you made decisions based on who you were and what you knew at that time. Life did not give you a rulebook. You acted with limited knowledge, limited resources, and human emotions. Judging your past self with today's wisdom is unfair. When you understand this, self-forgiveness becomes possible. Forgiving yourself does not mean excusing everything. It means accepting that you are human. Unfinished business also appears in the form of unresolved relationships. There may be people you lost touch with, arguments never healed, or apologies never spoken. While you cannot rewrite the past, you can still release its hold on your heart. Sometimes closure does not come from others, it comes from within. Writing a letter you never send, making a silent prayer, or simply letting go can lighten a burden you've carried for years. Regret can also teach. It shows you what truly mattered. It reminds you of your values. Instead of letting regret poison your remaining years, you can let it soften you. You can choose kindness over bitterness, peace over punishment. Each day still offers small chances to speak gently, to love openly, to be present. After 70, life is no longer about fixing everything. It is about making peace with what cannot be fixed. When you stop fighting your past and start accepting it, regret loosens its grip. What remains is wisdom, humility, and a calmer heart, one that finally allows itself to rest. As you grow older, the reality of mortality becomes impossible to ignore. After 70, death is no longer a distant idea or something that only happens to others. It becomes personal. Friends, neighbors, relatives, people who once shared laughter, meals, and memories begin to leave this world one by one. Each loss feels closer than the last. Funerals become more frequent than celebrations. This awareness can quietly settle into your heart and create fear, sadness, or deep reflection. It is one of the most bitter truths of aging, yet also one of the most transformative. At first, thoughts of death can be frightening. You may worry about how much time remains, about illness, pain, or leaving loved ones behind. Nights may feel longer as the mind wanders toward unanswered questions. Society rarely teaches us how to face mortality with peace, so fear often fills the silence. Many try to avoid these thoughts, distracting themselves or pretending that tomorrow is guaranteed. But avoidance does not bring comfort, it only increases anxiety. Acceptance, however, changes everything. When you acknowledge that life is temporary, each day gains meaning. You begin to see time as precious, not endless. Small moments, morning light, a kind word, a shared meal, a quiet prayer start to matter more than grand plans. Mortality teaches you to live fully in the present rather than worrying endlessly about the future. This stage of life also invites spiritual reflection. Many people after 70 feel drawn toward faith, prayer, or inner contemplation. Questions about purpose, legacy, and what comes next naturally arise. These reflections are not signs of weakness. They are signs of wisdom. Making peace with mortality often means making peace with life itself, accepting what was, what is, and what will be. Another powerful shift happens when fear slowly turns into gratitude. You realize that reaching old age itself is a blessing denied to many. Every extra year, every extra morning is a gift. Instead of counting how little time may remain, you begin to appreciate how much life you have already lived. The focus shifts from fear of ending to appreciation of having been. Mortality also teaches forgiveness. Petty anger feels meaningless when time feels limited. You become more willing to let go, to soften, to love without conditions. Death reminds you that peace is more valuable than pride. The reality of mortality may feel bitter, but it carries deep wisdom. When you accept it instead of resisting it, fear loosens its grip. You stop merely existing and start living with intention. And in that acceptance, you discover a quiet courage and a calm happiness that only those who truly understand life's fragility can ever know. As you grow older, especially after 70, one lesson becomes clearer than all the others: true peace comes only through acceptance, not resistance. For many years of life, resistance feels natural. You resist problems, fight circumstances, push against pain, and believe that effort alone can change everything. This mindset helps in youth and middle age, but in old age, constant resistance becomes exhausting. Fighting reality or age, your health, people's behavior, or life's outcomes only creates inner turmoil. Resistance often shows up as anger, denial, or bitterness. You may resist aging by constantly wishing to be younger. You may resist loneliness by blaming others. You may resist illness by asking, "Why me?" These thoughts are understandable, but they quietly steal peace. The mind keeps arguing with reality, and reality never loses. Acceptance does not mean liking everything that happens. It means recognizing what cannot be changed and choosing not to suffer over it. Acceptance brings relief because it removes the constant inner struggle. When you accept your age, you stop competing with the past. When you accept your limitations, you stop feeling ashamed of them. When you accept that people may not behave the way you want, you stop feeling disappointed every time. Acceptance frees emotional energy that was wasted on resistance and redirects it toward calm living. This stage of life invites you to let go of control. After 70, you realize that control was always an illusion. You controlled less than you thought. Even in your strongest years, accepting this truth is not weakness, it is maturity. When you surrender the need to control outcomes, you start focusing on how you respond instead. Your reactions become softer, wiser, and more peaceful. Acceptance also deepens gratitude. Instead of focusing on what is missing, you begin to notice what remains. You appreciate small joys, a quiet morning, a shared laugh, a moment of prayer, a warm meal. These simple experiences carry more peace than any victory won through struggle. One of the most powerful forms of acceptance is forgiving life itself. Forgiving life for being unfair, unpredictable, and imperfect. Life never promised perfection. It promised experience. When you accept that, disappointment loses its power. Peace after 70 does not come from fixing everything, it comes from resting your heart. When you stop resisting what is and start embracing it gently, life feels lighter. Problems may still exist, but they no longer control your emotions. In acceptance, you discover that happiness does not come from changing life, it comes from changing how you hold it.